everybody, and welcome to The Black Show. My name is Kenny Cams, and this is a special episode today. I've stayed away from politics for the most part during this cycle, but today we are going to do a non-biased view of the policy positions of both parties so that people are well-informed. And then towards the end, I'm going to vote on which policies I agree with and see where I land. So for the purpose of this video, we'll be going over 13 different topics. The first one is economy and taxation. The second one is healthcare. The third one is climate change and energy. The fourth one is immigration. The fifth one is social issues. The sixth one is criminal justice reform. The seventh is foreign policy. Eighth is education. 9 is gun control. 10 is labor and employment. 11 is technology and privacy. 12 is infrastructure. And 13 is voting rights and election security. So to get the information that we'll be using for this experiment here, I just literally chapped in the ChatGPT, what are the two policy positions of all major policies for both political parties, for the Republicans and the Democrats, as well as what's their voting record on that policy. The reason why is politicians lie a lot and they say a lot of things that they're not going to do. So what have they done, and what does their party say that they want to do? That's what we're looking at in here, and then we're going to go down. I'm going to pick, I agree more with this side, or I don't agree with either side. So the voting tally may be a little bit different, but I think this is a better way to kind of weed through all of the media kind of bias and bullshit that we usually get when discussing political topics. The first topic we're going to talk about is economy. The first topic that we're going to talk about is the economy and taxation. So for the Republican Party, the GOP generally advocates for lower taxes, reduced government spending, deregulation, and free market capitalism. They support tax cuts as a means to stimulate the economy and growth, often push for reducing corporate tax rates to encourage investments. For their voting record, Republicans have consistently voted for tax cuts, and notably tax cuts for the Jobs Act of 2017, which reduced corporate tax rates from 35 to 21% and lowered individual tax rates across the board. All right. And so the Democratic position on this. So now the Democratic position on this. Democrats generally support progressive taxation where wealthier individuals and corporations are pay a higher tax rate. They advocate for spending government spending on social programs, infrastructure, and green energy, funded by higher taxes and on wealthy and large corporations. For their voting record, Democrats oppose tax cuts and Job Act of 2017, arguing that it favored the rich and increased the national deficit. They supported measures to raise minimum wage and expand tax credits for low-income and middle-income families. So I think that when it comes to taxation and capitalism, it's a very difficult one because most people that aren't, very, very educated in economic theory may not understand what's going on, but I'm a person that I know a little bit about it, but not enough to explain it on YouTube, or where I would feel confident explaining that on YouTube to people. How I kind of look at this after reading those two and kind of discussing those two, I look at when Republicans were in power compared to when Democrats were in power. How was my life financially? As a kid, you can't really tell. But I will say as an adult, ironically, I've had a better financial life post-Trump than I did during Trump. But that was kind of a lot from my own doing. I think just with the knowledge of how I know that, or that I see, I guess, I don't know anything, but how I see that Republicans are a little bit more forward of what they want to do, and the Democrats are a little bit more sneaky on what they're trying to do. So on the capitalism side and the economy side, I'm kind of null and void on both because I think that both are ran by corporations. So I'll say for this standard on this one, I'm neither party. So the next category we're going to talk about is healthcare. The Republican Party's platform on this is the GOP generally opposes government-run healthcare, favors a free market approach. They advocate for repealing the Affordable Care Act and support health savings accounts and reducing regulations and increasing competition in the healthcare market. And And then for the voting record, they have repeatedly tried to repeal the ACA, and they tried to, a bunch of times. So the Democratic Party largely support expanding access to health care through government programs. They defend the ACA for expanding it, and they try to push it. And then on here they say the Medicare for all is the public option, but the Democrats that are in power now are not for that. I know that specifically. Democrats were instrumental in passing the ACA, which opposed efforts to repeal it, and blase Skippy. So for healthcare, I would actually defer with the Republican side. The reason why, and in 2008, I think it was 2008, the second time, 2012, I voted for Obama. And voting for Obama, I was for sure like a liberal, but I think I'm more of a classic liberal just because, again, I grew up with older people around me. But the ACA, essentially what it did was force people who don't want to pay for healthcare to pay for healthcare, and it was a subsidy to the healthcare industry. So it was presented as something that was good for the people, but it was actually a guarantee that you have to pay money to these healthcare industries. So when I see stuff like that, the pattern recognition, the ADHD in my brain, doesn't make sense. Obama was sold out to the healthcare industries, and then Occupy Wall Street and blase and all that. On the Republican side of this, I'm a little bit more of you pay what you pay. But the thing in the healthcare now is people are getting price gouged by healthcare insurance companies. The middleman is price gouging us like it does in like everything pretty much. So I think eliminating the middleman and making is kind of impossible a little bit, I'm realizing, and kind of how society runs. But what we could do is make these companies actually have to sell their product and not get these automatic government contracts. So I would say on this one, I'm probably leaning more on the Republican side. So our next topic is climate change and energy. The GOP is more skeptical of climate change, and then they want to produce more gas, coal, and just energy in general in America, which Republicans have voted against measures to, let's see. So the next topic we have is climate change and energy. The GOP, the Republican Party, is more generally skeptical of climate change in general, and they want to focus on producing more energy in America and for Americans, to Americans. They voted to reduce carbon emissions and just supported a rollback of like environmental stuff too. On the Democratic side, Democrats view climate change as a significant and urgent issue, advocating for strong government action to reduce carbon emissions, and they supported like the Paris Agreement, and like the Green New Deal. Democrats have consistently supported legislation aimed at greenhouse gas emissions, promoting clean energy, and increasing environmental protections. So I'm 100% with Republicans on this side. So right now it's 2 points Republicans, 0 Democrats. Climate change, as they present it, the Greta Thunberg, is all a scam, and it's not true. And what's happening is very rich people are manipulating people that don't have a lot of information on how the world works and how science works, and telling them what the science is. It's a lot of very, very credible, and I believe the most credible scientists in the world say climate change is not a thing. The world does go in cycles, but what is being used is being parlayed to use into a way to tax the citizens. So if you're able to say you use X amount of carbon, which they're trying to get to, each person uses X amount of carbon, you have to pay X amount of money to be alive and walk around. Carbon is actually good for the trees. Look this up. Carbon is actually good for the environment, and we are made of carbon. So when you hear evil globalist people talk about climate change, they're talking about getting rid of you. All right, the next topic we got is immigration. All right, the next topic we got is immigration. Republicans, they generally advocate for stricter immigration enforcement and a stronger border security, merit-based system. They oppose amnesty for undocumented immigrants and support policies to reduce illegal immigration. Republicans have supported measures like the border wall, funding for ICE, opposing pathways for citizenships for undocumented immigrants. The Democratic Party generally supports comprehensive immigration reform, including pathways for citizenship, DACA, and humane border policies. Democrats have consistently restricted immigration and have legislative procedures for Okay, so we kind of get where everybody's at on immigration. It's so funny. It's interesting how you see how Chat GPT is biased, and I asked him don't be biased in this, and when I asked for the prompt, but no one's for humane border conditions. Neither side. Neither side cares about any of those people. That's extremely clear. On this note, I will kind of give my opinion on this. I do not believe it should be a pathway to citizenship for people that come here illegally. And I know I have at least two or three people that I know are in a situation that I care about deeply. But I don't make exceptions for things like that just because it's someone that's connected to me. Anybody that's going anywhere illegal is a crime. Why can't you go the natural route? Would you have to wait? Yes, but that's how stuff works. It's this instant gratification culture on the Democratic side. That's what this is. I'm seeing that I know who white people will never be replaced in this country. That white replacement theory is not a thing. It's a black replacement. They're replacing the black people. So just so you know that, black people, they're replacing the black people. So yes, this is a direct threat to us. All right, the fifth topic is social issues. So that's LGBTQ rights, abortion, and whatnot. So the Republican Party's position on this is the GOP generally takes conservative positions on social issues, opposing abortion and advocating for religious liberty protections. Many Republicans also oppose policies that extend to the LGBTQ individuals and traditional definitions of marriage and gender. So Republicans have supported legislation such as partial abortion bans and have voted on conservative Supreme Court judges who are likely to overturn Roe versus Wade and all that good stuff. So the Democratic Party is generally support abortion rights, LGBTQ, expanding anti-discrimination policies. They advocate for maintaining the separation of church and state here. Democrats have consistently voted to protect and expand abortion rights, support LGBTQ rights, and oppose religious exemptions that allow discrimination. So this is probably going to shock a lot of people. I am 100% on the Republican side here. So let me put this in context. I don't care what anyone does in their personal time. But your personal life shouldn't affect my life at all. As my life shouldn't affect your life at all unless we choose to interact with each other. So the LGB, I was cool with. They just did their own thing. They didn't bother nobody. They don't mess with nobody. It's the TQI plus and all that shit I have a problem with. So LGB, y'all 100% good in my book. No questions at all. Even the Qs, I don't know what y'all mean. But it's a couple of them letters I don't fuck with because I see what the agenda is. And I see how the changeover in the youth that emotionally, like, and physically, like, some of these states want to abort babies in the 9th month. Some of these states that are Democrat-led want to do medical procedures, permanent medical procedures on children because of a feeling that kid's parent had. So I'm 100% on this. Like, no on social issues, and when it comes to black social issues, the Democrats want minorities to be victims so they can take advantage of them for political gain. It's no white person that's done anything in this country that I couldn't do. And I grew up. It's a literal documentary about the poverty in the neighborhood that I grew up in. That's all a lie and a scam. I'm the proof that that's all a lie and a scam. It's if you want to go do something, you can go do it. You got to just work hard to do it. No one's gonna hand it to you. So that's why I'm all for those social issues of the black stuff. That's just teaching black people to be victims. So Republicans are winning right now. I'm kind of looking Republican. All right, criminal justice reform. Republicans generally support law and order, including tough on crime policies, increasing police funding, opposing efforts to defund the police. And y'all kind of get that one. Republicans also support criminal justice reform, focused on reducing recidivism and improving rehabilitation. All right, that's interesting. Republicans have traditionally supported mandatory minimum sentencing and the war on drugs, but have also backed the First Step Act, which Trump administration signed a Step Act, which reformed federal sentencing and aimed to reduce recidivism. All right, so Democrats side on this. Democrats generally advocate for criminal justice reform, including reducing mass incarceration, eliminating mandatory sentencing, addressing systemic racism policing. Democrats have supported legislation aimed at reducing sentencing disparities, ending cash bail, promoting accountability, such as the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I was with them and they lost me there. At this point, if you don't understand that George Floyd was a chronic drug addict that took an overdose on drugs, he's about to be arrested. A cop just got out of jail because none of those police should be in prison. They didn't do anything nefarious. They didn't do anything intentional. That was drug addict that was used by the media to promote an agenda. And COVID just magically went away during that time. So I don't believe what they say. People look at it like, why don't you believe the Democrats? Because they lied to me a lot. I used to be a Democrat. I voted for Obama. I was like, I got Bernie Sanders' book before he turned to an asshole. I knew he was an asshole. Like, so I was a full-blown Democrat. So don't put this on me. This is on the Democrats. They lied too many times for me to ever believe anything they say. And they constantly lie. On the Republican side, I don't trust them either on this. The one thing I will say is the places so from my coaching and just traveling around the world, around the country, really, not the world, the country. I've been in the smallest of small towns of 200 people. I've been in the biggest of cities, New York and LA. Republican towns are just nicer towns. On the surface, I feel safer there. Everybody's usually smiling. It's just a nicer place. They have flowers and shit out. So I'm just saying, like, I go by what I see, not what I hear from other people. Republican places are just nicer than Democratic places. Have you been to New York? Have you been to Chicago? I'm from Milwaukee. Like, we get the runoff from Chicago, and as you see what it's doing in Milwaukee. So, like, nah, I'm going to go with the Republicans on this one, or not at all. I'm probably more independent on this one, but I would tend to lean Republicans with this one for sure. All right, foreign policy. So the next topic we got is foreign policy. So the Republican position, Republicans generally advocate for a strong national defense, increased military spending, more unilateral approach to foreign policy, the America First policies. Republicans, voting records supported military interventions. We know George Bush but Donald Trump is a little bit different than George Bush, and I'll explain it. The Democratic policy, they wanted to withdraw from the TPP and the Iran nuclear deal. Democrats generally support multilateralism, diplomacy, and engagement. They're locked in with the UN and NATO. Democrats have the agreements like the Paris Climate Accords, the Iran nuclear deal, and the TPP. That was a Democrat thing. It was Obama who was pushing the TPP. Pursuit of policy of leading from behind in conflicts overseas, and that's all bullshit. The Democrats lie about everything, and so do the Republicans. So this is the one topic where I'm like, fuck both of them. Our foreign policy is, if they got something we want, we send our boys to go get them, and if they got anything to say sideways about it, they're not there anymore. That's how our foreign policy runs. And so when you look at the Republicans are more nation first, but they're not for the people, they're for the rich people in the nation, the corporations. On the Democratic side, they're sold out to the national corporations. So they're sold out to the UN, NATO, World Economic Forum, International Bank of Settlements. You can go up the list. So the Democratic side wants you to not be an American anymore and just be a global citizen and get under this dictatorship that they're starting. And the Republican side right now with Trump, because Trump didn't get in any more wars. That's really why they came at Trump crazy, because Trump was causing them money by not getting into wars. They make money from wars. That's why both sides fuck with the military-industrial complex, because they make money when stuff starts blowing up. So Trump didn't blow a lot of stuff up compared to Obama, who had, 20 people, so every 20 minutes someone was killed with a drone by Obama. Bush, we already know. Clinton, Kosovo. Like, you can go down the list. Like, war is our economy here. So I don't agree with either of them on this side. It's a big 0 for both. All right, the next topic we have is education. So this is Republican policy position. The GOP generally supports school choice, including charter schools, voucher schools, homeschooling. Advocate for local control over education, over federal mandates like Common Core, which is the dumbest shit ever. Past Trump administration, led by Betsy DeVos, okay. Also pushed for legislation that allow greater religious expression in schools. Democrats, all right, they generally support increased funding in public schools. Democrats advocate for addressing inequalities in education and support federal standards to ensure quality education nationwide. Democrats have voted to increase federal funding, and they lost me there. 100% on the Republican side. Don't agree with everything and how the cake is made, but the federal... So I have a reason for this. It's not just because I don't like the Democrats. If you're watching this video, does a kid from rural West Virginia need the same education as a kid from California, from Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, California, or New York City? No. They have very different survival skills and things they need to know to be functional people in the places they are. So I don't just say like, okay, every kid needs, and if you, I was a substitute teacher for 2 years. And right when Common Core is literally why our kids are failing in school. The Department of Education needs to be abolished in my book. I'm more libertarian on this. And locally, you let the people in the local that know the kids that they're teaching decide on what the kids should learn. Because those kids are going to live in that same environment as those people when they grow up. And that's the future. So let the community decide where the community wants to go. If you want more liberal education, move to a place with more liberal education. If you want more conservative values, if you have more conservative values, move somewhere where it's more conservative to raise your kids. I'm tired of all of this. Like, y'all have to do what we have to do on both sides. It's fucking annoying. You don't want to be inconvenienced and move. Just move to where you want to go, where people are like, find your fucking tribe is the thing. Stop complaining about stuff not being how you want and find your tribe. We're cranking through, y'all. Next topic we got is gun control. The GOP supports the Second Amendment, right to bear arms, all of that. Republicans have consistently voted against gun control. They supported legislation to protect gun manufacturers from lawsuits. The Democratic Party supports stricter gun measures and universal background checks, and basically gun control. Basically don't want the Second Amendment. Democrats have consistently supported gun control legislation, including reasonable efforts to reinstate the federal assault ban rifle, close the Charleston loophole in background checks. Democrats want gun control. Okay, so on this one, please understand, people, black people, understand this. When you put gun laws, and my white listeners too, when you put gun laws in place, the only people that listen to laws are people that are not criminals. Understand that. So it does not change anything for the criminals because they were already doing things that were against the law. So do you think that having this is against the law, I got to turn my gun in? No, you're not living in reality. You're living in an educational, theoretical, higher education world that does not really exist. What gun control is, when a government is implementing gun control, they are maneuvering to take power from the people. It is a saying by many, many generals. The reason why the United States can't, and you can look this up yourself, the reason why the United States is very, very difficult to invade is because it's a gun behind every blade of grass. A general from a different country said that about us. It's not a negative thing. Guns are not bad. Bad people with guns are the problem. Guns are used. If you live, and I've lived in a lot of different areas. If you live in a rural area and you have bears there and you have kids, yes, you need an automatic fucking gun. You need an AR-15. If you're in the city, you may not need that. But if you're in rural areas, you need those because actual predators still exist that are animals, that are not people. Animals are predators. Your food comes from the farm, not the gas station or the grocery store. You need things to protect your crop and your people. So if you got a bunch of pigs and it's wolves and they come eat the pigs, you lose a lot of money. Pigs cost $700-800 a pop. City people don't even comprehend that because they don't know the context of it. But no, when the government is trying to take your guns, the next thing they'll take is your food. Then they'll just take you. So think how you went on that. I'm with the Republicans. All right. So we're going to skip a couple of topics because this got kind of long. I didn't want the video to be that long. But the last one we're going to do is voting rights and election security. So the GOP, the Republican Party, supports measures aimed at ensuring election integrity and voting ID laws, restriction on mail-in voting, purging voter rolls. These are to prevent or argue to prevent fraud. It was skipped. Republicans have voted for legislation that impose stricter voting requirements often at the state level. Democrats support expanded voting rights and access, including same-day voter registration, including advocating votes for minorities and disenfranchised groups. Democratic have supported federal legislation expanding the votes and all that stuff. So I'm 100% on the Republicans on this one. I think as only people that pay taxes should be able to vote, period. I feel like only productive citizens should be able to vote. So if you have a felony, you shouldn't be able to vote. If you're not a citizen from here, you shouldn't be able to vote. If you're paying taxes, you shouldn't be able to vote. I go more back to the traditional, how the country was built. I don't care if they were slave owners. Logic is logic. People that have an investment in what we're doing here are the only people that should have a say. Anybody else that doesn't have an actual investment, not an internet investment, because this internet shit is fake. It doesn't matter. If you don't have a real life investment in that community, then you shouldn't have a say in what goes on. And I'm 100%, I will always advocate for that. I feel like that is good leadership. So hopefully this helps some people. I tried to break it down. I even wore the collar shirt, y'all. I got a little dressed up for it. I was even finna get the haircut and stuff, but it's the Black Show, man. I try to get the information to y'all. You don't have to agree or disagree. Oh, I would say out of the 10 we did, I'm probably 7-0-1. 7 Republican or 7-2-1 out of the 10 we did. So 7 Republican, 2 independent, 1 maybe Democrat. All right, y'all. It's Kenny Cams. I'm out. Peace.